Anna here, the afterthought in a family of intellectuals. Both big university players, my parents had their life exactly plotted. I then arrived, unwelcome and unannounced. Mom would often lament, her voice laden with guilt. We found out too late. Other choices had already been lost by the time they knew. I born barely 11 months apart from my sister Sarah. Although we appeared to be twins, the parallels stopped there. She had the intelligence. I had the heart. Day one made it abundantly evident who the favored was. "Look, John, Sarah's reading is already excellent," Mom yelled one day when I was roughly 3. Sarah sat in the corner nose, buried in a book, designed for twice her age, that really defines the tone of our early years. Sarah threw herself into books. I ate life. She committed difficult books to memory. I can remember what I ate for morning. Though I was conscientious and hard-working, it never seemed to be enough. One day Mom asked, Anna, clearly frustrated in her voice, "How many times do I have to explain this? Simple addition is what we are doing here." I watched the figures, trying to make sense of them, but they danced around the page, mocking me. Sarah passed through her tough math assignments in the next room simultaneously. But I compensated for my lack of academics in charisma, the class clown. The life of the celebration was me. To everyone save my parents, my laughing was contagious. I was cracking a joke I had heard in school one evening over supper. The chicken then said, and then the chicken said, "Anna?" Mom's cutting voice sliced across my narrative. Enough. Low intelligence is shown by laughing for no purpose. Please help yourself to control. My cheeks turned red with guilt. Sarah grinned across the table, her book on quantum physics never taken out of sight. The division only became more pronounced as elementary school went on. Like they were going out of fashion, Sarah gathered academic honors. Me too. If I received a gold star for attendance, I considered myself lucky. The day the 5th grade school science fair took place will never fade. First place went to Sarah's on cellular mitosis. Mine is, let's say, then, that my baking soda volcano did not precisely explode as expected. The car loaded with compliments for Sarah's accomplishment as we headed home. Sitting in the rear covered in dried baking soda, I felt smaller by the minute. "Well," Dad remarked at last, peering back in the rearview mirror, "I suppose not everyone in the family can be scientifically inclined." Mom nodded, her lips in a narrow line. "Anna clearly lacks the talent for it. What opinions of our colleagues should we expect?" Slinking down in my seat, I yearned to vanish. That was the instant I understood I would never be able to uphold their esteemed reputation among scientists. I was the disappointment, the person unable to continue their legacy. The distance separating Sarah and me just grew as we grew older. Sarah was flown to academic decathlons, math contests, and scientific camps. Me, Mrs. Jenkins, our older babysitter, was left with me. Nonetheless, you know what? Mrs. Jenkins was a miracle worker. Mrs. Jenkins was imparting knowledge useful in the real world while my parents were preparing Sarah to be the next Einstein. "Come on, Anna," she would say, her wrinkled hands guiding my kneading of dough. "Let me demonstrate how to create a pie that will really knock their socks off." Other days we would plan food lists and clip coupons. Her eyes sparkling, "Listen here, girl," she would say, "knowledge of how to stretch $1 is just as vital as knowledge of atom splitting." Still, the best lessons came from our heart-to-heart chats. One day as we watched the sunset on the porch, "Anna, dear," she remarked, "not everyone's born a genius, but everyone can make the world a bit better." You recalled that. In a house where I never appeared to measure up, those words became my lifeline. Sarah kept shining in front of her school. She competed in every academic contest, returning medals and prizes Mom would proudly show in the living room. Conversely, my report cards were buried in a drawer and never seen at all. In high school, it was difficult. I was just trying to keep my head above water while Sarah zipped through AP courses and SAT preparation. My enemy was arithmetic. No matter how hard I tried, the numbers would not cooperate. The last straw came that day we received our SAT results. Of course, Sarah had done it perfectly. Me too. Let's suppose my score wouldn't be getting me into any universities. Dad roared, waving my score report in front of me. A dumbass, that's what you are. How can you be that dumb? Simple addition, for God's sake. Mom watched from behind, disgustedly shaking her head. Sarah also. She grinned smugly as she leaned against the doorframe. She did not once come in to defend me. She never volunteered to assist once. She simply watched, most likely considering her great fortune to be the intelligent one. Tears running down my cheeks, I stood there while my parents launched their attack. You cannot even add 2 plus 2. How are you planning to enter college? To create something of your own? Their comments hurt right to the core, each one a reminder of how I will never be good enough. But in among their yelling, I saw something else stirring. Wrath, will, a strong will to disprove them. Their nasty remarks still echoing in my ears as I laid in bed that evening, I decided something. Though right now I might not be suited for college, that did not mean I could create something of myself. I marched into Sonny's supermarket the day following graduation and landed a job as a cashier. Though not flashy, you know what? I had something entirely my own for the first time in my life. I started drawing in my own wages within weeks. Though I told my parents I had a job, they hardly looked up from their newspaper. To be honest, I was relieved, not asked where or what I was doing. At least this way they couldn't object. Now I had my own money, but I still lived at home. Not much, but enough to enjoy some fun free from begging my folks for money. Knowing I could say yes without thinking about the expense, my friend and store colleague Lisa would phone, "Anna, you coming to the beach this weekend?" And I would smile. Sarah was immersed in books, getting ready for her first semester at some elite Ivy League university, while I was living it. Weekends at the beach, movie evenings with friends, last-minute road trips. I could now be me at last, unfettered. Weeks become months, and I adjusted to my new life. I was glad, even if the life my parents had hoped for me was not what I found. Truly delighted. That day followed, the day that fundamentally changed things. Tuesday afternoon it was. The store was empty until I heard the automated door swoosh open while replenishing the gun display. Looking up, my usual greeting on my lips froze. Looking as prim and perfect as always, my mother was there. We simply looked at one another for a moment. She looked shocked, and I followed right away with humiliation. She turned, obviously ready to go without saying, but some foolish, hopeful part of me cried out, "Mom, hey." Her visage a mask of contempt, she turned slowly. "Anna," she replied, her voice full with letdown. "What are you doing here?" Trying to preserve a light voice, I gestured to my name badge. "My workplace is here, have been for some months now." Her eyes squeezed. "A woman in sales? Really, Anna? The daughter of a lecturer, reduced to this?" She waved a lazy hand at the nearby grocery. "What would our colleagues believe should they learn my daughter ranks lowest on the social ladder?" Her comments landed like a smack. I had felt pleased of my independence, of making my own way, but in her view I was simply embarrassing. "I'm working, honestly," I said, sounding little. "I am not doing anything illegal." But Mom was beyond logic. Her voice grew, catching the few patrons of the business. "You hear me, you will leave this job right away. You embarrassing our family like this is not what I want, and if this is the road you decide upon, you may forget about sharing our house." Rooted on the ground, I saw her bolt from the store. The automated door swished closed behind her, producing an almost deafening silence. That evening I went home tear-stained cheeks and a heavy heart. Though the house was empty, the quiet felt stifling. I walked to my room and began packing without saying. Mom materialized in the doorway as I was zipping up my last bag. Her face revealed just relief, not the kind of worry I mistakenly hoped for. "So you decided at last to leave," she remarked, her voice empty of feeling. "Good, it's for your best." Dad showed up behind her, nodding in agreement. "Remember to change your surname," he said. "We can't have you disparaging our family name with your choices." Their words cut, but just now I was beyond tears. "Fine," I responded, my voice remarkably steady. "I'll call Grandpa using his name. At least he understood the kind of loving without conditions." Not turning around, I got my luggage and left. I offered my new address. They did not ask for it. I went in with Lisa the following day. Over the preceding few months, we had grown close, and when I told her what occurred, she immediately volunteered her spare room. I came over Sarah's profile one lazy Sunday afternoon as Lisa and I were browsing social media. Though my finger stopped over the unfollow button, curiosity won out. Images of Sarah's earning honors, status updates on her most recent research discoveries, and notifications of her admittance to prestigious scientific societies made up her feed, a procession of successes. Every post drew hundreds of likes and comments, all praising her. "Your sister." Lisa leaned over my shoulder and asked, "Have you lately spoke with her?" I shook my head, thinking back on our most recent contact. Few weeks after I had left my house, I had reached out to Sarah, suggesting we get coffee in a moment of weakness. Her answer came out as chilly and contemptuous. "Anna, we used to have much in common, but now our interests and, more importantly, our degrees of development range somewhat widely. Neither of us would find a productive use for a meeting." That marked our last direct conversation. I kept in touch with my extended relatives, even if my own family was estranged. Especially Aunt Martha grew to be a comfort and a link to my roots. She let loose some facts during one of our many phone talks that both confirmed and undermined my choice to leave. "Oh, she said, her voice weighed down with grief. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your folks always inquire whether you will be attending family events. Should our answer be yes, they decline to visit. They claim it's because you're under their current level and they can't stand to be in the same room as you." My chest hurt, a familiar sensation, although it was lessened now. Startled by how much I meant it, "It's okay, Aunt Martha," I said. "Right now, I'm glad with my life. Their loss, if they cannot embrace that, is theirs." And that was accurate as well. Though not ideal, my life was mine. I had a job I liked, friends who embraced me for who I was, and a developing feeling of self-worth unrelated to social level or intellectual ability. 5 years had gone since I left my parents' house, and life had found a comfortable routine. The store had assigned me assistant manager promotion. My friends' network had expanded, and I had even begun enrolling in several business management online courses. Though something seemed lacking, I was happy. That changed one evening in a lovely summer. I found him as my buddies planned a beach bonfire. Standing somewhat apart from the others, he looked somewhat out of place in his button-down shirt and cakas. But it was his eyes that drew me in. As he looked about him, they seemed to glitter with inquiry. I moved across, reaching out a hand. "Hello, I am Anna. You seem like you may enjoy a s'more." He chuckled, a real friendly sound that brought me to grin. "David here, and sure, I would most certainly want a s'more. Years go by since I last had one." We talked as we cooked marshmallows. David turned out to be an environmental scientist just returned from an Amazon study trip. That evening we spoke for hours on everything and nothing. My tales of customer service escapades captivated David, and his environmental enthusiasm captivated me. David and I drew near as the weeks stretched into months. He didn't give a damn about my working as a saleswoman or missing college. He valued my fast thinking, friend-making skills for everyone, and refreshing perspective on life. 6 months into our relationship, I paid his family a dinner party visit. I was nervous. Every one of them was an outstanding scientist, after all. Surprisingly, though, they greeted me with wide arms. They inquired about my profession, hobbies, and aspirations late into the evening. They never once inquired about my family background or degree. That was revitalizing. One year, the day we first met, David suggested, though it was small, just the two of us on the same beach where we had first met. It was ideal. We intended a modest wedding for simply close friends and relatives. I paused over 3 names, Mom, Dad, and Sarah, when I addressed the invites. Notwithstanding all, a part of me still hoped. When the RSVPs returned, those 3 stayed quiet. Living with David exceeded anything I had ever dreamed of and more. We had gotten into a comfortable schedule, juggling my employment at the store with his study. Still, even with my level of contentment, I felt as though I was meant for much greater. That something more arrived at David's parents' house on a slow Sunday afternoon. The discussion shifted to David's most recent studies as we were all lounging in the lawn, savoring the cool lemonade and bright sunshine. "The amount of plastic garbage we are generating is astounding," David said, running a hand through his hair. "The worst aspect is that much of it ends up in landfills or the sea." His dad gave a serious nod. "Although it's a crisis, without a doubt, what can we do? People are not going to give up using plastic overnight." And thought began to grow in my head while they kept debating the issue. Years of working retail had taught me a thing or two about what people want and need. All those hours I would have spent with Mrs. Jenkins, learning to be creative and inventive, suddenly came rushing back. I was already reaching for a pen from the table and a napkin. "What if," I asked, my voice shaking with enthusiasm, "what if we could create something from that plastic garbage, something that people really desire?" Curious, 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. Driven, I kept quickly drawing on the napkin. "Like this," I said, waving my rough sketch. "Garden furniture created totally from recycled plastic, robust, environmentally friendly, weather-resistant. We may even make it modular so individuals might personalize their own creations." The quiet that followed was absolutely deafening. I worried for a second that I had overstepped and that they would find my ridiculous concept embarrassing. Then Anna, David's father, whispered gently, eyes wide with wonder, That's brilliant." David seemed to have never seen me before as he fixed me. "Do you find out how many environmental issues this might address? And the market promise is quite great." His mother added, "And it's not just outdoor furniture. Consider all the urban uses, playground equipment, park seating, even building components." What followed was a swirl. Enthusiastic about the idea's possibilities, David's parents volunteered to help bring it to life financially. Before I knew it, we were assembling a company, with me, Anna Holloway, erstwhile family disappointment, as the CEO. David took care of creating the technology to effectively recycle and shape the plastic, given his scientific expertise. Using my years of consumer service experience to produce something people would adore, I concentrated on design and marketing. 6 months following that terrible Sunday afternoon, we started our first line of garden chairs. The reply came out as overwhelming. People delighted in the elegant designs, environmentally responsible concept, and narrative underlying them all. Inspired by our success, we broadened our offering. Interested in using our recycled plastic goods for city projects, urban designers began corresponding. And then the call that fundamentally altered everything. The mayor's office requested to see us. We signed a contract committing ourselves to assist in city development. 3 years had gone between that terrible day in David's parents' backyard. Renew, our business, had exceeded our most ambitious expectations. We had changed city parks, recycled tons of plastic garbage, and even begun branching out into environmentally friendly building materials. And now here we were, poised to accept a state award for environmental impact and creativity. I felt proud as David and I stood in the great ballroom surrounded by the crème de la crème of the scientific and economic sectors. We moved throughout the assembly, pausing to speak with different dignitaries and fellow inventors. I spotted them midway through a discussion with the head of urban planning for the city, Sarah, and my dad standing next to the refreshment table. They presented diverse looks. Mom and Dad had aged quite a bit. Their hair seemed more gray than I could recall. And Sarah, typically so put together, was worn out with black circles under her eyes. Our gaze locked across the room for a second. Their features showed disbelief, obviously not expecting to see me in such a context. I looked at David and linked my arm through his. I said, maybe a little louder than required, "Let's go find your parents." My eyes forward, chin raised as we passed my family. David's parents were here, glowing with pride beside the stage. I looked out of the corner of my eye and saw movement while we discussed the approaching event. Approaching with eyes locked on David's mother was my mother. "Excuse me," I said, listening for sickly sweet voice. "Your wonderful family caught my eye. You have to be quite happy of your kid and his partner." I tensed, watching for the drop of the other shoe. Still, my mother-in-law merely grinned kindly. "Oh, we are. Anna is a quite amazing woman. Her being in our family is a gift." I watched them huddled together, feverishly whispering as she returned to my father and Sarah. I overheard brief bits of their talk. "Can't believe it's her. Married into a family of scientists. Probably just here as his plus one." It was at last the moment. I became quite proud when the presenter announced my name and declared, "You renew the State Environmental Innovation Award recipient." My heart thumping with enthusiasm, I strode onto the stage. Chaos broke out as I went for the microphone, poised to deliver the speech I had painstakingly written. My mother shot onto the platform. She had grabbed my arm and taken the microphone from my hand before I could respond. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said with a quivering, emotional voice, "I am the proud mother of this brilliant, worthy woman." She waved broadly in my direction. We always knew Anna would turn out someone quite remarkable. Frozen in wonder, I watched her perform, even managed to shed a few tears. Recognizing the well-known Professor Anderson, the audience started applauding. Years of neglect, disappointment, and rejection crystallizing into a single scorching point of resolve rose up inside me in that instant, rage and hurt. I would let her not take this moment. I pulled the microphone back from her softly but firmly. "Thank you, Mother," I replied, my voice calm in the tempest of feelings within of me. "Please, if I could have a moment of silence." The room went quiet, everyone staring at me. "Yes, I am the daughter of the eminent Professors Anderson," I said, my voice distinctly over the still room. "But I stand before you today not because of them, but against them." My mother's face paling beside me, I watched shock sweep over the audience. I related the years of missed school functions, of being told I was embarrassing, of being ordered to alter my name and move away. Working as a saleswoman, I covered my identity as my own parents embarrassed of me. Dead silence, the room hum on every word. But right now, I stand before you as a success rather than a loser. Not for my family name, but for the family I selected. Seeing tears in David's parents' eyes, I turned to face David. When none else saw promise in me, my husband David and his amazing parents did. They pushed my ideas and encouraged me to visualize. We owe it to them that Renew exists and that we have been able to change our surroundings and neighborhood. I waved for David to take front stage. I watched my father and Sarah slip out of the hall as he was walking up, unable to withstand the public attention. Holding out the trophy, "This honor," I said, "is evidence of what can happen when you believe in someone. When you tend to their potential rather than stifling their energy. It's evidence that brilliance takes many different shapes and that compassion and encouragement can transform lives. Turning to my mother, still shell-shocked next to me, "I'm sorry, but I find your unexpected pride in me unacceptable. Years ago you lost that right," I remarked, hugging David. "My real family is here." People getting to their feet, the hall burst in applause. I heard whispers of respect and encouragement and saw tears. David's parents were proudly beaming, but clearly sobbing. Over the next few days, I heard via the grapevine that Sarah and my parents were under fire in their academic circles. Their behavior of me startled many, and many others were reevaluating their relationships with them. Part of me felt bad for exposing them, for complicating their life as they phrased it. A better part, though, realized I had done nothing illegal. I had just spoken the truth, a truth suppressed for far too long. In terms of me, life continued. Renew kept expanding and inventing. David and I began discussing our own prospective family. Every day I awakened appreciatively for the life I had created, for the family I had selected, and for the power I had discovered within myself.
Hey, I'm Linda, a 28-year-old marketing executive with a flair for creativity and a talent for transforming coffee into successful campaigns. I live what most people would call a fairy tale life in downtown Chicago with my husband Mark, a brilliant software engineer who's as charming as he is smart. We met in the most classic rom-com way, bumping into each other at a coffee shop. One spilled latte, a whirlwind romance, and a dream wedding later. Here we are, 2 years into marriage and talking about starting a family. "Mark, have you thought about nursery colors?" I asked one evening, scrolling through Pinterest. "Huh? Oh, yeah. How about blue?" he replied, barely looking up from his laptop. I chuckled. "Blue? That's so predictable. How about a nice sunny yellow?" "Whatever you think is best, honey," he said with a distracted smile. Little did I know, beneath our picture-perfect life, trouble was brewing. Mark's parents, Richard and Linda, had never fully warmed up to me. I get it, I'm not from their world of country clubs and trust funds, but a little acceptance would be nice. Take last week's family dinner, for example. Richard raised his glass, his gaze sharp like a hawk's. "To family," he said, his voice laced with hidden meaning. "May it grow appropriately." I nearly choked on my wine. Did he really just say that? Not to be outdone, Linda added with her signature passive-aggressive sweetness, "Yes, dear. Motherhood isn't for everyone, you know. We hope you're ready for the challenge." I forced a smile, squeezing Mark's hand under the table. He squeezed back but didn't say a word. "Thanks for the backup, hubby." Months passed, and despite our efforts, no baby. That's when Richard suggested Dr. Anderson, a renowned fertility specialist. "Only the best for family," he said, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. I nodded, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. Thank goodness for Emma, my colleague and best friend. "Linda, you okay?" she asked one day, noticing my distracted mood. "Yeah, just family stuff," I sighed. "Mark's parents again?" she asked, rolling her eyes. "Girl, you need to stand up to them." I know. It's just complicated," I muttered, not wanting to get into it. But as I left work that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Little did I know, my seemingly perfect life was about to unravel in ways I couldn't have imagined. 6 months into our baby-making journey, I was starting to feel like a broken record. Another day, another negative pregnancy test. It felt like a punch to the gut every time. And don't even get me started on Dr. Anderson. The guy was acting stranger by the day. "Dr. Anderson, what do these results mean?" I asked during our last appointment, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. He shuffled his papers, avoiding eye contact. "Well, Mrs. Johnson, it's inconclusive at this point." "Inconclusive? What does that even mean?" "Things at home weren't much better. One night, I overheard Mark and his dad having a heated argument. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but Richard's voice carried like a foghorn. 'She's not good enough for this family,' he boomed, 'if she can't even give you a child.'" I couldn't make out the rest, but my heart sank faster than an elevator with cut cables. Mark's response was too quiet to hear. Probably some half-hearted defense. "Thanks for nothing, hubby." At work, Emma could sense something was wrong. "Linda, you look like you've been through hell." What's going on? I spilled everything: the failed test, Dr. Anderson's evasiveness, the argument I overheard. Maybe you should get a second opinion, she suggested. Something feels off about Dr. Anderson. I was mulling over Emma's advice when things took an even weirder turn. I started noticing a car following me around. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but after a few days, I was sure someone was tailing me. One afternoon, I'd had enough. I whipped my car around and confronted the driver. Who are you and why are you following me? The guy looked panicked. I'm just... Spill it, I demanded. He cracked almost immediately. Turns out Richard had hired him to keep tabs on me. Can you believe that? Meanwhile, Mark was practically a ghost in our marriage. Late nights at work had become his new routine, and whenever I tried to talk to him, he either snapped or completely ignored me. Mark, can we talk? I asked one night, hoping for some connection. Not now, Linda. I'm tired, he mumbled, not even bothering to look up from his phone. The final blow came at a charity event, orchestrated by none other than my dear mother-in-law. Oh, Linda, she exclaimed, feigning surprise. Have you met Vanessa? She and Mark were so close in college. Such a shame things didn't work out. Vanessa smiled sweetly, but there was a predatory glint in her eyes. As I watched her and Mark chatting, laughing at old inside jokes, I felt the last fragile threads of my life unraveling. Standing there, watching my husband with his ex, I realized something had to change. This wasn't the life I had signed up for. It was time to start asking some hard questions and demanding real answers. One thing was crystal clear: I deserved better than this circus masquerading as a family. Enough was enough. I decided to take control and booked an appointment with Dr. Martinez, another fertility specialist. After a battery of tests, she delivered the news. Mrs. Johnson, I can say with certainty that you're perfectly capable of conceiving. There's no medical reason preventing you from getting pregnant. Felt like I'd been blindsided. But Dr. Anderson said, I'm sorry, but Dr. Anderson's diagnosis seems questionable at best, she replied. Armed with this bombshell, I marched into Dr. Anderson's office. Care to explain why Dr. Martinez says I'm perfectly fertile? His face went pale. Mrs. Johnson, I can explain. Start talking, I demanded. And he did. He spilled everything. Richard had tried to bribe him into falsely diagnosing me as infertile. I didn't take the money, Dr. Anderson stammered, but I did stall your treatment. I was livid. You played with my emotions, my marriage, my future. How dare you? Leaving his office, I knew I had to dig deeper. That night, I set up a hidden camera in our living room. Call it intuition, but something about Mark's late nights felt off. 2 days later, I watched the footage, and my world crumbled. There was Mark, wrapped around Vanessa, on our couch. Our couch. I felt sick. Immediately, I called Emma, my hands shaking. I need your help. What's wrong? She asked. I need to hack into Mark's emails. Can you help? Emma, ever the loyal friend, came through like a pro. What we uncovered made my blood run cold. Emails between Mark, Richard, and Linda, all plotting to push me out of the family. Look at this, Emma pointed at the screen. There's something here about Richard's company too. We dug deeper and hit the jackpot. Evidence of a major financial scandal. Karma's a real piece of work, isn't it, Richard? Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, Linda invited me for tea. Sitting across from me, she slid a document across the table. It's just a formality, dear, she said, her smile as fake as her pearls. A post-nuptial agreement to protect everyone's interests. I wanted to laugh in her face, but instead, I smiled sweetly. I'll have my lawyer look it over. Speaking of lawyers, I realized I needed one. Swallowing my pride, I made a call I never thought I would. Jack, it's Rita. I need your help. We hadn't spoken in years, but desperate times call for desperate measures. As I explained everything to my estranged brother, a plan began forming in my mind. It was time for some good old-fashioned revenge. Over the next few weeks, I became a regular Sherlock Holmes. I gathered every scrap of evidence. The fertility test results, a recording of Dr. Anderson's confession, thank you, voice recorder app, the video of Mark's betrayal, those damning emails, and proof of Richard's financial misdeeds. Each piece of evidence felt like a nail in their coffin. You sure about this, Linda? Emma asked. One night, as we went over everything, I nodded with a grim smile. They messed with the wrong woman. It was time they learned that actions have consequences. Looking at the mountain of evidence before me, I felt a strange mix of sadness and determination. This wasn't how I'd imagined my fairy tale marriage would end, but sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something better. Justice was approaching, and I was ready. They thought they could break me, push me out, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Linda Johnson doesn't go down without a fight, and boy, was I ready to fight. The moment of truth arrived on a sunny Saturday morning. I'd asked Mark to stay home, claiming we needed to talk about our future. As he walked into the living room, I sat there, cool as a cucumber, a folder in my lap. "We do need to talk about our future, Mark," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, or rather, the lack of it. "What do you mean?" he asked, confusion written across his face. I laid it all out. His infidelity, the conspiracy with his parents, everything. With each revelation, the color drained from his face. How did you?" he stammered. I ignored his question and handed him an envelope. "Divorce papers. Sign them without contest or your family's dirty laundry goes public." He signed without a word. Good boy. Next up was Dr. Anderson. I anonymously sent a detailed report, along with his recorded confession, to the medical board. Bye-bye, medical license. For Richard, I had something special in store. I gave him a call. "Hello, Linda. To what do I owe this pleasure?" His voice dripped with sarcasm. "Cut the crap, Richard. I know about your financial scandal. Transfer a hefty divorce settlement to me, or I'll make sure the world knows, too." There was a long pause. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," he complied grudgingly. I almost felt bad. Almost. The coup de grace, I leaked the information about Richard's scandal to Emma's journalist friend. The story hit like a tsunami. Richard's company stocks nosedived, and the feds came knocking. Linda's social circle evaporated faster than spilled champagne. No more fancy galas for you, Linda. Even Vanessa got her comeuppance. An anonymous tip to her employer about her role in the scheme, and, poof, there went her job and reputation. As the dust settled, I found myself at a new beginning. With Richard's settlement, I started my own marketing firm with Emma. "To new beginnings?" Emma said, raising her glass in our brand new office. "And karma," I added with a grin. 2 years flew by. I stood in my office, admiring the Chicago skyline, when my phone buzzed. Richard's company had filed for bankruptcy, and he was drowning in lawsuits. Mark. Last I'd heard, he was stuck in a dead-end job, his career in ruins. I placed a hand on my growing belly and smiled. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I'd hit it out of the park. This baby inside me was a promise of a better future. My new partner, a kind man I'd met through work, was everything Mark wasn't. As I felt a little kick, I made a silent vow. This child would know only love, respect, and loyalty, the true meaning of family. The sun was setting as I packed up, ready to head home. The sky was a canvas of orange and pink, as if it were celebrating with me. I faced betrayal and come out on top on my own terms. Walking out, I couldn't help but smirk. The price of betrayal had been high for them. For me, I was just getting started. Life's funny that way. Sometimes you've got to lose it all to win everything. And boy, had I won. If you were in my shoes, would you have taken revenge on your in-laws and ex-husband, or would you have walked away without looking back? What do you think is more empowering, getting even or moving on? Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Reeves. I'm 28 now, working as a marketing executive. It's a good job, keeps me busy, but sometimes I catch myself staring out the office window, thinking about how I ended up here. The road wasn't easy, let me tell you. Growing up, our house was like a powder keg, always on the verge of blowing up. My dad, James, meant well. He'd say things like, "Come on, girls, let's all get along," with this hopeful look on his face. But it was never that simple. "Vanessa, sweetheart, do you want the last cookie?" My stepmom, Diane, would coo, acting like I didn't even exist. Vanessa, my stepsister, would smirk and snatch it, making a big show of how good it was. "Thanks, Mom, you always know what I like." Meanwhile, I'd sit there, stomach growling, knowing better than to complain. Complaining just made things worse. Vanessa was younger than me, but she knew how to play the game. She'd wait until Diane was out of earshot and then whisper, "You're not really part of this family, you know. Mom and Dad just keep you around out of pity." I'd clench my fists under the table, trying not to cry. "That's not true," I'd mutter, but deep down, I sometimes wondered if she was right. The worst part, Vanessa was smart. She could twist things, make me look bad no matter what I did. If I did well in school, she'd tell Diane I was showing off. If I struggled, she'd mock me for being dumb. Mom, Olivia's being mean to me again. She'd whine right after pinching me or hiding my homework. Diane would swoop in, all concerned for her precious daughter. Olivia, why can't you be nice to your sister? She's younger than you. You should set a good example. I try to explain, but it never mattered. I was always the problem in their eyes. There was one time when I was 12 that I don't like to talk about, but it changed everything. Let's just say Vanessa went too far, and I got hurt, not just physically, but in a way that left scars you can't see. After that, I learned to keep everything inside. It was safer that way. No one could use my feelings against me if they didn't know I had any. School became my escape. I threw myself into my studies, sitting late at the library just to avoid going home. My teachers noticed. Olivia has so much potential, they'd say. It felt good to be seen for once. But the real lifesaver was Lucas, my next-door neighbor. Somehow, he saw through all the BS. We'd sit on his porch for hours talking about everything and nothing. You know you don't deserve how they treat you, right? He'd say, handing me a soda. I'd shrug, trying to play it cool. It's not that bad. Liv, come on. I've seen how they are. It's not okay. Those talks with Lucas kept me going. He was the one person I could be real with, the one place I didn't have to pretend. As I got older, I started planning my escape. College applications, part-time jobs, anything to get out of that house. I promised myself that one day, I'd have a life where I didn't have to hide who I was. Looking back now, I realize how much that time shaped me. The secrets, the constant tension, always walking on eggshells. It made me who I am. Stronger, yes, but also more guarded than I'd like to admit. I stared down at the cream-colored envelope in my hands, my heart racing. Vanessa's college graduation invitation. After years of silence, this was the last thing I expected. You okay, Liv? Ethan's concerned voice snapped me out of my daze. Yeah, it's from Vanessa. She wants me at her graduation. Ethan frowned. Your stepsister. The one who made your life hell? I nodded, still processing. Maybe she's changed. People grow up, right? I don't know, babe. Sounds risky to me. I called Sophie, needing my best friend's take. Girl, are you crazy? Why would you even think about going? I don't know, Soph. Part of me hopes. Maybe we could start over. Sophie sighed. You've got a bigger heart than I do. Just be careful, okay? The day of the ceremony arrived, and I found myself smoothing down my dress, my stomach in knots. You sure about this? Ethan squeezed my hand. No, but I need to do it. We found seats near the back of the auditorium. As the graduates filed in, I spotted Vanessa, her face beaming with pride. Our eyes met, and to my surprise, she smiled and waved. Maybe this wasn't a mistake after all. The ceremony went on, and then Vanessa took the stage for her valedictorian speech. My chest swelled with unexpected pride. Thank you all for being here today, Vanessa began, her voice strong and confident. I want to talk about overcoming adversity and the power of family. I leaned forward, intrigued. I have a stepsister, Vanessa continued, her eyes locking on mine in the crowd. Olivia, stand up so everyone can see you. Confused but flattered, I stood, offering a small wave. Vanessa's smile turned sharp, almost predatory. Olivia had a tough childhood. She was always so angry, so difficult to live with. My blood ran cold. This couldn't be happening. When we were kids, Olivia had a breakdown. She became violent, dangerous even. But I stood by her. I protected her from herself. Whispers spread through the audience like wildfire. I felt Ethan tense beside me. I took her to therapy, covered for her outbursts, helped her become a functioning member of society. Tears burned in my eyes as Vanessa continued, twisting every painful memory into a narrative. That speech painted Vanessa as the hero and me as a basket case. Even now, Olivia struggles, but I'm proud of how far she's come under my guidance, Vanessa said, her voice dripping with condescension. I couldn't breathe. The room spun as years of carefully buried trauma came rushing back. Liv, we need to go, Ethan whispered urgently, but I was frozen in place, watching in horror as Vanessa detailed the most humiliating moments of my life. Remember when you tried to run away? Vanessa's voice was thick with false concern. If I hadn't found you. That was it, I bolted, pushing past startled audience members, desperate for air. Outside, I gulped in deep breaths, feeling my carefully constructed life crumble around me. Olivia, wait. Sophie ran after me, Ethan closed behind. How? How could she? I choked out between sobs. Sophie wrapped me in a fierce hug. She's a monster, Liv. None of what she said is true, she assured me. Ethan's face was dark with anger. We should go back in there and set the record straight. I shook my head violently. No, I can't. I can't face them. Then we're leaving, Sophie declared, taking charge. Right now. As they led me to the car, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lucas. Just heard what happened. I'm here if you need me. I stared at the message, a mix of gratitude and shame washing over me. How many people had witnessed my humiliation? What do you need, Liv? Ethan asked gently as we drove away. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of exposed secrets pressing down on me. I don't know. I need to disappear for a while. Sophie reached back and squeezed my hand. We've got you, girl. Whatever you need. As the campus faded from view, I realized this wasn't just about one ruined day. Vanessa had shattered the walls I'd built, exposing vulnerabilities I thought were long buried. The road ahead looked dark and uncertain, but for now, all I could do was hold on and try to breathe. The days after Vanessa's graduation blurred together. I barely left my apartment, ignoring calls from work until my boss finally said, "Take some time, Olivia. Your health comes first." I was curled up on the couch when Ethan showed up with grocery bags in hand. "I'm making your favorite pasta," he announced. "I'm not hungry," I mumbled. "Tough. You need to eat." As the smell of garlic filled the air, Sophie burst in. "All right, pity party's over. We're getting you out of this funk." I groaned. "Can I just wallow in peace?" "Nope," Lucas chimed in, appearing behind Sophie. "We're your intervention squad." Despite myself, I cracked a smile. "Some squad. What's the plan?" Sophie plopped down beside me. "First, we eat, then we strategize." Over plates of pasta, my friends brainstormed ideas. "You could sue her for defamation," Ethan suggested. I shook my head. "And drag this out in court? No thanks." Lucas leaned forward. "What about exposing her lies? I bet we could find others she's hurt." The idea sparked something in me. That's not a bad thought. Venus left a trail of victims. If we could gather their stories. Sophie grinned. "Now we're talking." Operation Takedown Vanessa is a go. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Where do we start? We divided tasks. Lucas, with his IT skills, would dig into Vanessa's online presence. Sophie, ever the social butterfly, would discreetly reach out to old classmates. Ethan offered to help me organize the evidence. As the days passed, my apartment transformed into command central. Sticky notes covered the walls, each one a piece of Vanessa's web of lies. "Look at this," Lucas called out one evening, waving his laptop. "Vanessa's college blog. She's been stealing other people's stories and passing them off as her own." Sophie burst in, phone in hand. "I just got off the phone with Vanessa's ex-roommate. Apparently, she stole the girl's thesis and tried to submit it as her own." The pieces were falling into place, but something was still missing. I needed to confront my own demons. I think I need to go to therapy," I admitted to Ethan one night. He squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, Liv. Want me to help you find someone?" My first session was tough. I've spent so long running from my past, I told Dr. Reeves. No relation, thankfully. "It's okay to face it now," she assured me. "You're not that helpless child anymore." Week by week, I felt stronger. I started journaling, pouring out years of pent-up emotions. One day, as I sorted through old photos for evidence, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hello, is this Olivia Reeves?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Jamie Chen. I'm a journalist with the City Tribune. I was at your stepsister's graduation, and something didn't sit right about her speech. I've been looking into your family's history." My heart raced. "What do you want?" "To hear your side of the story, if you're willing to share it." I hesitated, then thought of everything we'd uncovered. "Actually, Ms. Chen, I think I have a lot to tell you." That night, I called an emergency meeting with my support squad. "A journalist wants to interview me about Vanessa," I announced. Sophie's eyes widened. "Whoa, are you going to do it?" I took a deep breath. "I think I have to. It's time to reclaim my narrative." Lucas nodded approvingly. "We've got enough dirt to bury Vanessa 10 times over." "It's not about burying her," I said, surprising myself. It's about telling the truth. All of it. Ethan pulled me close. Whatever you decide, we're with you. As I looked around at my friends, I felt a surge of strength. Vanessa had tried to defy me with her lies, but she had failed. I had my own story to tell, and for the first time, I was ready to tell it. The day Jamie Chen's expose hit the newsstands, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I'd given her everything. The evidence, the testimonies, my own raw, unfiltered truth. Seeing it all laid out in black and white was surreal. Liv, have you seen this? Ethan's voice crackled through the phone. Vanessa's university is revoking her degree. I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. It's what she deserves, but still. Sophie burst into my apartment, waving her tablet. Girl, you won't believe this. Vanessa's law firm just fired her. Apparently, they did some digging after the article came out. It was like dominoes falling. Vanessa's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, and for once I wasn't the one buried in the rubble. Weeks later, I stood outside my childhood home, heart pounding. It was time to face my family. You've got this, Lucas whispered, squeezing my hand before I went in alone. The confrontation was brutal but cathartic. I laid out every painful memory, every manipulation, backed by years of evidence. How could you let this happen? I asked my dad, my voice breaking. He looked older, defeated. Olivia, I'm so sorry. I didn't see. You didn't want to see. I corrected him. Diane tried to interject, but I cut her off. I don't want your excuses or your apologies. I'm here to say goodbye. Walking away from that house for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in years. Months passed. I threw myself into writing my memoir, pouring out every dark secret and hard-won triumph. When it hit the bestseller list, I used the platform to launch a support network for abuse survivors. You're doing amazing things, Liv, Ethan said one night as we celebrated my book's success. I smiled, feeling truly at peace. We're doing amazing things. I couldn't have done this without you all. As for Vanessa, last I heard she was facing fraud charges. But her story wasn't mine anymore. I had my own to write, and for the first time in my life, the future looked brighter than ever.